Hello, everyone. This is Seán Ferrick for the War Room, which is our interview series as part of the Clonestar pod. And I am delighted to introduce, for absolutely the first time, because this is in no way a re-record, and that's absolutely in no way my fault. You may know Stephanie as Lieutenant Tavine of the Titan in Star Trek Picard Season 3. You may know her as the Irish pirate Grania. You may also know her possibly as the bouncer or bartender at the Village Idiot. And then if you're Canadian, you may just know her as a goddess. Stephanie Czajkowski, thank you so much for appearing for what is absolutely the first time on the podcast.
Seán, it's so nice to meet you for the first time. And also, thank you for taking the time to read my very carefully scripted bio on my website.
Oh yeah, like I'm just absolutely taking your word that all of that is true. Like
Yeah,
this could be like the really carefully constructed web of lies, and if it is, fair play, because it's just diverse enough that I believe it, no problem.
yeah. I think I will give credit to, I think my husband is a writer. So I usually write anything I write, and then I'm terrible at punctuation. And so I let him edit. So I believe he was the one who inserted, Canadian goddess, because I think we were at the beginning of a relationship. I'm not sure if that would stand now.
I mean, like, isn't the whole point of being a goddess that it's there forever? So,
Yeah,
I mean, like,
right.
there's no takesies backsies on that one. Maybe being a
Exactly.
pirate can be seasonal, but
Exactly. Oh my
um,
God.
so for the benefit of the viewers and listeners right now, so we did record before. However, at the time, I was filming through a potato in somewhere that had the strongest 56 kilobyte internet, I think, ever. And it was, how many times did we have to even restart the call?
I think two or three, and that could have been on my side too. Like whatever mice were like turning the turbine to make our engine go was not working. Plus, I had like a weird cold, so I'd be like, like it was all kinds. Everyone out there, you were very glad we did this again, as are we.
This is true. And, if I ever start a Patreon, maybe the original video will be available on the Patreon, for
You
which I
never
will have
know,
to, of course, I have to
right?
sign contracts for all. That's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine,
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine, it's totally fine, it's totally fine.
I have to open, of course, with a question. You seem better than the last time the general public would have seen you.
That is true. I am a fully formed.
Mm.
Um, it's been a week, dude. It's been a week in coming up. I've known that poor Tavine was going to get vaporized for a year and a half. And I'm not counting down the days, but just anticipating both out of sadness for people who have come to love her,
Mm.
and also interest in what the overall reaction would be. Because I know my overall reaction was like, oh, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fuck. A whole lot of FOMO.
And so close to episode 8 of 10.
So close. So close. I mean, so close. So close. Yeah. I mean, when I first got the job, they told me it was going to be heavily reoccurring, which they never tell you what it's going to be. And I
Okay.
knew I was going to be in 4 episodes. Like I thought it was just four, and then it kept going. So the fact that I got to eight, the fact that, there was only 10 was just like, oh my God, except for the part of me that read that very first script that said the next generation. I was just like, hmm,
Hmm.
this feels like this might be a setup for a spin-off or a just make until the oh.
It was like, I'm not in that generation. I could be in there.
and
Although,
and
like, the scene. The scene is, because I know we're starting at the end, but I have to talk about
of
just
course.
what a gut punch it was.
Yeah.
The whole scene, everyone was firing on all cylinders. And it was just like I was white knuckling it when I
Yeah,
watched it.
the tension of it is too good, and it's one of those things that, as an actor, once I got over, because the first thing that happens, also I was raised Catholic, so literally anytime my agent calls or my manager calls, I never think that I am getting good news. I think they're going to fire me or something. Like I'm always expecting that I did something wrong.
Mm.
So when I found out I was being, executed, not assassinated, executed, my first reaction, a little bit until I humped over it, was, oh God, did I do a bad job? They're going to kill me. They chose me to kill. Until you back it up, and then you have, the conversation. I learned that I was dying from Deborah Kampenheimer, who was the director, in an email, which was her being an amazing director. And I hadn't read the script yet. I hadn't, it was like we were on holiday, it was in between, we're coming into the Thanksgiving break. And I get this email that says, Stephanie, I've watched the work. I've watched the last episodes to know where we are. I'm so touched and I feel so much for your character. You've brought such humanity to Taveen, which is why I was gutted when she's executed in episode 8. And I was like, what? And so there was a minute, because we weren't back on set and I didn't want to be like, why are you killing me? And then you sit back and you think about the fact that this season, and under Terry's, stewardship, he's made a point to make our characters, specifically the TNG characters, fully human. They have, they have conflict. They're experiencing all these things that humanity experiences, which I think is the overall arc always from Gene, right? So when we get to that scene, and they've talked about it, they've talked about it too, and we've talked about it afterwards. If you kill a red shirt, it is not as effective. If you kill a red shirt, it's the easy way out. When you pull a Game of Thrones, when you pull a Game of Thrones, that's basically what I think of it. Like, you think of the end of the first season, and you're like, oh, yes, you gut punch, but also I can't help but think, because we are so in this season experiencing all of these things having to do with family, interactive family, you're also experiencing what it's like to lose a loved one suddenly, because it happens all the time, And knowing that, specifically watching it again, knowing that I was dying not because it was easy to get rid of me, because it mattered, is kind of enough for me, is enough for me to be like, well, I'm gonna take one for the team. But also, it's good storytelling, man. And you don't want to, this is terrible, like, you don't want to, like, fail out because you're like, oh, I might save this character for later. I mean, because going in, all we knew is we had one season. And I also am kind of like, she's a Vulcan. There's a ways around it, maybe. I mean, who knows? I mean, as we've talked about, I keep joking with people that, she's a quarter Delta and her Ponfar was off the chain. But I also keep saying, so if she's a quarter, her mom is half. Can you imagine how productive that Ponfar was?
I'm talking like, at least octuplets. Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Exactly. Well, and I in real life have a brother who's, he's 9 years younger than me, but we look, for a long time, people thought we were twins because we look so much alike. So, I'm open to it. I'm also just like, throw some Klingon makeup on me. Can I be like the long lost daughter of Michael Dorn?
Whenever anyone asks a question about, can they ever bring somebody back as someone else, I just say Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like, but Jeffrey Combs. Yeah, but what about Jeffrey Combs? You know what I mean? Like, yes, absolutely. Or we just have you without the ears. You know what I mean?
Or again, Taveen has a sister. We joked on the bridge before. Taveen has a sister. I'm like, who's a little more Delta-y? No, I don't know. I think in a lot of ways, the big loss in the love for coming for this character, and also why the gut punch was so big, is you're seeing a Vulcan science officer, we haven't seen, we haven't, with such, and I think specifically with such a striking look that from the onset, like, I remember Jonathan Frakes walking on set and looking at me and being like, yeah, dude, just because of, it's such a striking look, and I'm glad we made that choice. But it also is sad because you also And I too, like even in watching it, even in watching the season, I know I want to know more about her. And I don't know how you reconstitute a vaporization. Like part of me is like, couldn't they just have blown a hole in her or something? But the effect was amazing,
Oh, I mean, it was so like even looking at the framing of the shot, it's incredible because you have Vadik, the gun is to Esmar's head. I thought the way the shot was being set up, I thought we're going to say goodbye tomorrow. That's what it's going to be because the gun is to Esmar's head. So I think it would possibly be even more horrific if Vadik did shoot Esmar. I don't know. But yeah, then that's sudden bait and switch. And it's so sudden. And it's so like, and then it's going, tell them. Oh.
Yeah.
But I mean, as you say, like Vulcan, she was standing there beside Seven, just a little bit of a quick, like, there's Makatra. There you go. Now, everyone's getting a Golem this season. It's grand, it's fine. How do we reconstitute it? Don't need to.
There's part of me because you can't see her face because it's from the back. We're not, or no, we see it from the side. Because part of me is like, did Ed bop in for a minute? Did her eyes light up? Did she like, is she close enough to Esmar, who is an empath, to be like, hey, I got you. I mean, that would be if you were going to do, but I also feel like if you were going, I mean, there is a lot to, I guess, explore in the possibility if Paramount ever responds, because it doesn't seem like they're kind of, everything's restructuring. We're talking about writer strikes, it's so I think every multimedia company is holding all of their stuff close to the vest and is trying to make stuff as inexpensive as possible, which makes sense. But also making this show is an expensive show, but it's the quality of it is phenomenal, which is why, the problem with streaming is you don't know how many people are watching it. You don't know how they can aggregate the numbers, but it's not somewhere where you can go and see it. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
You're right. It's like the age of, I suppose to say the age of television, I don't even know if that is the right description that I'm using anymore, because yes, okay, I personally predominantly watch streaming. I have a TV that I watch my streaming on, but not everybody does anymore. Like, there's computers, there's devices, there's everything. So it's pretty hard to get that. So that idea of the Nielsen ratings, the Nielsen homes, I remember learning about that not that long ago and being like, wow, they were massively skewed as well.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, oh, okay, right. So yeah, the whole like.
Well, and it's also one of those things of you would see a show on network or whatever, and you didn't understand why it was on because it wasn't getting a lot of ratings in the United States, but they were doing huge sales overseas. So like, excuse me, a lot of CW's model for a very long time was they were creating product through Warner Brothers, but they were selling it everywhere else. But now that you have streamers, now you have people self-support. So they're just trying to figure out the model. But part of me is also just kind of like, so Discovery for a Heartbeat was on Netflix, right? And now it's not. Now it's only Paramount Plus and CBS, but also at any point in time, you could take any of the Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, all of it, and even Picard, and you could put them on CBS. You could have them on Saturday nights on CBS. Like, you own that product to be able to do that. So the question ends up being the question for them will always be, how do we make the most money? That's going to be, the end game. But, part of me is kind of shocked simply because, now granted, I've only experienced most of the positive reinforcement that has come from Terry's stewardship, specifically of this third season. But part of me feels like he is, the Jon Favreau of the Star Trek or Star Wars universe, where why are you not letting him run with this is kind of my, weird question, because everyone who's doing it with him is like, oh God, yes, please, more of this. So
I think that's actually a crucial point. And so actually, here's an interesting thing. So I am sitting here as a viewer slash reviewer. You
Right.
know, you are a viewer slash participant. Like, you have physically been there, you've been around everything, and neither of us can understand why. But if not a fourth season has been picked off, why? Because we've just had the announcement. So actually, here's another thing that's happened since we recorded last time: is they have announced Starfleet Academy is coming. So there is another new Star Trek show. Always good to have new Star Trek. So I'm not bemoaning that. But that's going to be set in Discovery's future. As we know, Discovery is now coming to an end. And I catch myself going, I'm delighted. There's more stories in that time period, like I am. But I mean, you've got what seems to be, for the first time in years, it seems to be that you've got the main bulk, and maybe I'm totally off, but you've got the main bulk of, the people who liked Star Trek back in the day, who like Star Trek now, seem to be like, oh no, Picard season 3 seems to be hitting all the right notes.
Yeah, well, it seems to merge all of those audiences, right?
Yeah, we've got the people who might have been brought in via Discovery, via Strange New Worlds. You've even got the people who've been brought in through Prodigy and Lower Decks as well. Although I think we saw this before. Lower Decks, which I love. Lower Decks is for people who were already fans. I mean, it is a show of Easter eggs.
There's so much Easter. It's just Easter egg explosion, right? It's just like, and just like inside joke, which is what's so wonderful about it.
And Lower Decks being set a few years before Picard season 3, I think we figured out the return of Tavine.
I threw it out there. I was like, Tavine, but I think also, I mean, when we look at, I can't say, like, I'm literally talking out of my ass here, but when we're talking about, when Terry's saying we want a Star Trek, I was gonna say Prodigy, but legacy. There's something about bringing back legacy characters. Legacy characters can be really expensive because they're bringing with them.
Sure.
They're right. So, I mean, a Starfleet Academy, you start fresh, you start with new people. And from a production standpoint, you get people a lot cheaper who aren't really known. And, so I think it might be a balance of that, because, if you're talking legacy and you're talking like, oh, but also I feel like that's one of those things that, okay, you figure out where you're going to plot in these characters in a thing, but they're not, because when I think we're talking about legacy, it almost feels like capsule episodes where we've got one through line. Maybe it's the ship, under the lead of Jared, but you go and you look at these other things. So it's like big, it's like what they do with The Last of Us, where they have these capsule episodes a little bit sometimes that really explains the backstory. But again, I am not the people who make the decisions, so I don't know. For up to me, I say yes, regardless if I'm a part of it or not. Because, as Terry announced on Twitter, which was very kind of him, I just said I'd watch that show, because you want, regardless if you're part of it or not, you want to see good people keep succeeding. You want to see people who are lovely to work with, who make really good product, who make really good stories, to just keep doing what they're doing. And you hope you get included in it somewhere along the line. But even if you don't, in my estimation, you just want to see it out there, because if it's out there, it keeps creating more.
That's it. Like I mean, there's always, every time something new comes out, there are people who struggle with it, people who love it. We get it all the time. When Star Trek 2009 came out, and we had, people who loved this. It's brilliant. This is great. And then you had people who were like, gosh, that's not my daddy's Star Trek. And then you had people in the middle, and people were just like, but isn't it better that we're moving forward? Like, as in, there is something there. There is money being generated by this franchise, because when there's nothing, a dead franchise is not doing anything. And between 2005 and 2009, it wasn't doing anything. It was a dead franchise, whereas right now the wheels are turning. Maybe I'm being very, very naive and hopeful here, but if we don't
Easter Sunday, this is Easter Sunday. Anything can happen.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. But yeah, if we don't get an announcement of Legacy in the next couple of years or whatever, it's we as fans. We got the original series uncancelled for a while. We got we got the animated series, we got Strange New Worlds. I mean, these things happened because of fan outcry. Now, and I think maybe, and I can only speak for myself here, is that sometimes we get a little spoiled by instant answer.
True.
And because we're not like, because of, as of sitting down on the 9th of April 2023, we don't have a confirmation that, something like Legacy is happening. That doesn't mean it never will.
Right. Well, I also think like you can't spin it off as like you also, there also comes into play, and this is like really inside baseball, stuff about when something is created. Like Gene always gets credit for creating this world, but we're also looking at, okay, as you're coming into making any production, because my husband's a screenwriter and a director, but as you come into, if you're taking it off of something else, if it's coming off of Picard, you also have to look at, even if some of the producers who are attached to this thing where we met all these people, do they get to come along on this thing? Because sometimes what happens is you get named as a producer and you still get paid, even though you get, because you created where it came from, right? So starting anew, you also don't have all these other attachments. So it also, I mean, I don't know how it all works because it's already been 3 seasons in it. So I don't know. Again, I always think it always comes down to money. It always comes down to how much is it going to cost? What are we going to get out of it? And so I imagine that they're going to watch to the bitter end how it all plays out, what the response is, how many audience viewers do it. So, I believe that something good will happen with it, but I also don't. Yeah, I mean, we all thought it would. No, we did expect it, but there was a big thought that it would have happened on, First Contact Day. But
actually, do you know what we should do is that we should let Paramount know that First Contact Day was last week because they seem to have missed it.
Oh yeah. By the way, yeah. Because they also could have just announced Starfleet Academy on.
Yeah, it was a bit of an odd one. So someone shared a tweet and I just burst out laughing, and it's that still shot of Lore behind the window, and they just captioned it the Paramount Plus marketing manager.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that no notes, perfect. I know, right? Absolutely perfect. Hopefully somewhere in this, hopefully my poor editor, there was a link to that tweet. So I want everyone to get proper credit. So Star Trek Legacy, as we've confirmed, 100% going to happen, and you're going to be the showrunner. Brilliant. Going back, so actually filming this season. So this is filming back to back with season 2. So
yeah.
One of the things that we were wondering was that, particularly, I guess, with the people who were also featuring in season 2, were you ever talk to them going like, kind of, what are your days like? You know what I mean? Like, you're sitting there on the set for season 3, they're divvying between both. Then he wouldn't come in like, kind of, oh, no, hang on, no, that's not this storyline, that's somebody else's. And
when I came in, they had managed, to my knowledge, because my casting was very fast. It was a very fast process for me. I got scenes on a Wednesday. I did a self-tape. I was cast by Friday. And the next week, and it was right around Labor Day, it was the beginning of September. The next week I was going in for my costume fitting and my, hair and makeup, my ear fitting. And then we were rolling by the end of September. So I didn't have that overstretch by any stretch of imagination. Our makeup people and all of our people on set were like, okay, we're on to the next block. But they seemed to pretty succinctly finish and then start again. It was like, we stopped and we started, and everybody who had been on the entire show for the 2 and 3, all the tech people they just kept going along. And then we were the newbies who came in. And then, there was obviously Rafi, and, there was obviously Jerry and Michelle and Patrick and, James, who had been on it before. But there was no interaction with me with any of the other, characters from season 2 who weren't on season 3.
That's good because it just seems like something that would be quite difficult. And not that I'm thinking, well, good that you said it, but I mean, God bless the people who have to try and keep it all straight.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. But that's also, there are people called, there are literally people that is their job, and they're very, very good at it, thank God, because my head would be like, what? Where are we?
God,
So
it could even make your hair fall out.
literally, yes, it could. Yes, it could.
Yeah.
And I think also because we were in the pandemic, because Patrick had relocated from, well, he's in New York now, I think, had relocated from Brooklyn. It was also one of those things that we were still, it was 2021. So
Mm.
we were still, vaccines had come out, but they had also created kind of this bubble that worked, and you were creating product, and to have that slowed down by stopping and starting, it actually was a better financial decision to just keep going in a lot of ways, I think. Just because you already had I mean, God, we had like 400 crew members, more than 400 crew members. Because when we came back after the Christmas break, we shut down for COVID, which
Mm.
I imagine was going to happen because it had settled down in LA. And then suddenly at Christmas, it was just bugging everywhere again.
I
The
think
new.
I remember that. So, like, on the one hand, not to downplay the effect of COVID in Ireland, but I guess we benefited a little bit from a smaller population.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
there's 5 million people, or nearly 6 million people on the island of Ireland,
Right.
as opposed to, say, in the suburb of West Hollywood. Okay, exaggeration, but so our lockdown. I mean, everyone's locked down. Everyone had their own experience of lockdown, but I think the bigger cities got the bigger shock.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, you look at New Zealand. I look at how many productions just went to New Zealand because everyone. I mean, there were protests and whatever, but the big thing about the United States is they couldn't get on board. They couldn't get on board countrywide. Like we
Mm.
couldn't. You had California doing its thing, and Florida and Texas being like whatever, but also having bigger. I mean, we have a giant population, and we also at the time had leadership who could not get everyone on board to do one thing to be able to go on with life. And so it just went on and on and on because suddenly you have so many people, you have so many people passing it around. Cause I mean, it's not like we haven't had potential pandemics before. There was
Yeah.
another COVID. There was like, George Bush was like the first SARS. My husband wrote a thing about the, first SARS, but and all of those administrations on the American part had put things in place to deal with this shit. We just had someone who ignored it. and as a result, it just kept going. And, I mean, I work at a gym and I got COVID. I got COVID in 2020. When I went to the hospital. And I mean, I've had it a couple times, but my first experience not being vaccinated, thankfully, it was not probably my viral load was not very high, but I have plenty of friends who watch people die. And as a cancer survivor, someone who's still like managing a cancer diagnosis, I can't, not to bring it down, but it is hard for me to wrap my brain around something that you're like, oh, you have to wear a mask to go do the shit you want to do. I'm like, literally, my brother who traveled during the pandemic was like, so I put the mask on. I do what they tell me, so then I can still do what I want to do. Like, it just seemed ridiculous. It seemed ridiculous on so many levels, and so many people who think they're experts about things, not because they are, but because we as humans have decided we need control over things, or that we have control over things, which is complete bullshit. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
stop soapbox. Sorry, friends, didn't mean to tear it down a little bit, but I mean, but yeah, I think yes, I think and also with production, it's insurance.
Mm.
People are like, why do you have to do this? This is ridiculous. And it's about insurance companies. Because when you shut down production, insurance companies have to reimburse you for all the money you lost. Plus, if you go to production and someone gets hurt, or in this case of COVID, someone gets COVID and dies, then they get to sue you. Like,
Mm.
it is about lives, but it's all about money. It's all about insurance, and it's all about money at the end of the day. You know,
It is. It's like, it's kind of, I suppose, a grim lesson of adulthood. And I know it's been said many times, two things for sure, death and taxes. But, you know, at the end of the day, there is, you know, a dollar value on every second of every single production. I guess a great lesson for everyone is like, don't take it personally. It's never personal.
No,
but
it's not.
Remember, yeah,
you can't. I mean, you can, but oh my God. I mean, if you take everything personal that upsets you, then your whole life is built, you know, being upset because a guy cut you off in traffic.
I mean, I hope I've never been that guy. I probably have been. Wasn't by design, I will say. But you're kind of like, what's the Simpsons analogy? Are you like the kitchen sink, which is wiped clean, or are you like the kitchen mat that is absorbs everything it touches? I like that one. It's like, you know, of course I can't claim credit for it.
The Simpsons really are like the Nostradamus of cartoons. They're just, you know, you can go back and they'll be like, they predicted this.
It was especially amazing when they predicted the launch of the Titan-A from space dock. I mean, that was pretty impressive. Although, was it Star Trek 12? So very old. It's still just, I love that so much. You know, kind of, the ship is drafty. I complain, but nobody listens. Now, of course, we have all known and fallen in love with you. I say we, I mean me. I've known and fallen in love with you as the wonderful, wonderful Lieutenant Tavine. You're a shark. Sorry, Hammerhead from Doom Patrol as well.
You're like, I'm a shark. I'm like, I am a shark. Look at this hair. Zoom. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. So, and even like, you know, the cosplay and everything. So as I confessed last time, and actually it's even worse this time because there's been time between, and I haven't watched it yet. But as I confessed,
there's been stuff to do, dude. There's been stuff to do.
That's it. Exactly. There was a fierce amount of stuff.
Yeah.
Doom Patrol. How did that come about? And is there the simple fact is, and I mean this respectfully and jokingly, but respectfully, it's like, you look good bald. Are you just going to, like, you know, because your hair is lovely right now, don't get me wrong, but are you just going to make it a clause that every character you play from now on, because it works so well for you, just stay bald?
You know what? It was such a, and you know, I've been out in the world with this. It was such a confluence of kind of synchronicity with Hammerhead and Doom Patrol. I had been diagnosed with cancer. I'd gone through chemo. My hair was falling out. And I just embraced the fact that it was going to fall out. So I said, fuck it. And I shaved it. My husband shaved it for me. It was, you know, bonding moment. Unlike other people who cry about it, he was like, yeah, because we have very dark sense of humors. And I went and I got a headshot because when I was diagnosed, my experience with cancer was terrible, as most people's are, but physically I felt mostly okay. I kind of, like, my bigger side effects kind of felt like a really bad hangover, knock wood, because I guess I had physically through years been a fitness instructor and I was up for the challenge. I guess I'm like the perfect person to, you know, laser cut into and stick with poison. But I had shaved my head and I got this headshot, and it turned out that my parents, thank God, had given me, like, I had ended up with a pretty good noggin. Like, it was like, you shaved my head off, and I'd had long hair for a really long time. And my features are very strong. And when I shaved my head, I was talking to Don Innes from The Blaze, and we were just talking about gender identity and whatnot. And I remember just shaving my head and looking in the mirror and being like, oh, there you are. Not that I didn't know it, but just feeling like I really just fell into myself in a way that was, oh, I dig this. And I also like the fact that I don't have to worry about hair. So it was super crazy because a couple weeks later, they had a casting call for this character called Hammerhead, which was a tall, strong, sweary, fights with their fists, which has been roles that I've always gotten. But it was just that, and I think I would have gone in because I'd gone into this casting office before, and I would have gone in anyway. But having that bald head was like, oh yeah, because when I booked it, casting sent a note that said, "Don't change the hair." And at the time, I kind of was like, well, not possible. So I ended up doing it, and it was supposed to be, a couple of episodes. They said it would recur maybe. And I grew my hair back. I grew it, it's darker. I dye it blonde. Because I've been shaving it so much over the last couple of years. And then I ended up going back for the second season. And then I was there pretty heavily. And that was 2019 into 2020. And then we had the pandemic. And then I went back again. And it was that into a cute little, a treasured what's the word I'm looking for, sequel to the movie MacGruber with Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig, where I had like a little bit of hair growth back, and I ended up booking a job with them playing once again, tough bitch who like tough killer Bex, what's Bex's last name? Bex Dawson, who was like the right hand lieutenant to Billy Zane. So I couldn't be bald because there had been too many bald people, but I had short hair. And there was another bald gay angel. And then I came back from that, and there was this Star Trek audition, and they had submitted my bald headshot. Like, we're at a place right now where in between the first getting a hammerhead and, growing my hair back, I went through the thing that a lot of women in particular in Hollywood do. Like, what do I do with my hair? I don't, which was when I had no hair is always a preferred thing. I'm like, part of me is hated having to deal with that aspect of specifically gender identity, and also selling yourself in television, because there's an idea of what you should look like, and figuring out what that look is so people will call you in so they can work with your talent, but something that gets you through the door. And for me, had I known, dude, shaving the head was suddenly like, oh yeah, that's interesting, we want to see her. Or it's really polarizing. It's yes or no. There's no question of it. And so that's been the like interesting thing about it is now, and when I, grew my hair back, I went to my agents and I was like, guys, should I shave it off? I feel like I should shave it off. I don't really know. And they were like, we keep sending out that headshot. We just tell them you'll shave your head. So what I have started doing is when they do send that shaved head, because, after Picard, I started growing, I dyed it blonde just because I wanted to try to. And I also felt that, this is so dumb, I felt that by having my hair this blonde, and it's due for like a redo, it was easier to imagine me with no hair. Whereas when it's dark, I look not drastically, it's weird. Like, I do look incredibly different with no hair, right? And then like you throw hair, like, it's so dumb. But my face changes. So what I do is, if they send out these days, unless they send out the headshot with the bald head, I have a slate that I'll be, they ask men if they have beards, if they'll shave, and I always feel like, my name's Stephanie Czajkowski, obviously willing to shave. Because right now I'm playing with this a little bit, waiting for the next time that they ask me to shave my head. I mean, just like, that was a long, long way around that answer. But yeah, I mean, I'm so just kind of like, yeah, great, let's do it. Like, when do I get to shave my head again? Because it is so, my hair has become so not a big deal. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm the opposite of Samson, of the Samson Delilah story. I'm like, yeah, we're powerful without hair, as it were.
It is. It touches on, and you mentioned as well, gender identity, and then like, if we think of Hollywood, of cinema, there are performers who are identified by the hair. There's the Jennifer Aniston. Everyone in the 90s wanted Jennifer Aniston. Yeah. There was the Farrah Fawcett. Yeah. And to sort of go against that, to go, well, this is the Stephanie.
Yeah. Well, and here, and it's the thing of like, people are like, you're so brave. And I'm like, well, I guess I had a choice. I could have, been like, oh no, I want to get wigs, but they were expensive as hell. I also had a mother who lost her hair. She had a rare blood cancer, and she lost her hair, and she shaved her head. And I remember going to her oncologist because she stayed in New York, showing up, and she had a hat on and taken off and put butterfly tattoos all over the top. Like, she just made fun of it because why the fuck not? Like, it's so, hair grows back. There are really good, I mean, there are really good fucking wigs now, so
True.
you can do the thing. And this particular thing, specifically in, science fiction and action, is something that I am kind of built and I always have been built to do. And what it literally did for me is it solidified a look that other people just don't have. And thankfully, at least it's my belief, I have the chops to back it up, to actually give it more dimension than a lot of these roles could be. I think that's why, and it's weird because I don't want to toot my own horn, but there was a minute, where I was like, well, Hammerhead, did they just get me because I have a bald head? But it's as you can show you can do more, they give you more to do, as they trust your talent. So for me, it was, cancer was the biggest of weirdly lemons to lemonade, because I have never booked more jobs than when I got diagnosed with, 3 cancers, which is not what everyone can say. You know what I mean? It's a weird, and it also gives me a very strange relationship to cancer and health and stuff, in a way that sometimes people appreciate and other people are like, just shut up, because we all have our own experience with it.
That's it exactly. I mean, like, and as you say, I'm sure there will be people watching this going, this is inspiring. They may be on a cancer journey. They might have, relations. They might be like, this is really inspiring. Then there might be other people who are just like, that is not my experience. It has been this. Yeah. I mean, and you mean, it doesn't really, to say fuck cancer doesn't really do it justice.
You can say that all day long, please.
Oh, yeah. Like, kind of cancer, great crack. No. But I do not
recommend, like, there are other ways to find yourself. I do not recommend this one. Like,
that was it. There was a comedian a few years ago was saying, like, look, there are easier ways than deciding on a change of style than chemotherapy. There was like, but yeah. If you don't mind me asking, I would love to ask you, sure, where are you at in your cancer journey? You are a survivor. You mentioned three cancers. I mean, my God.
Three unrelated primaries. Literally, I say literally a lot. I'm like, literally, like, in the real way. I so wanted to be the mayor of Cancer Town, apparently. So I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, which is not uncommon, specifically with women. A week before I was going in for my thyroid surgery, I found a lump in my breast, which turned out to be breast cancer, like stage 2 invasive breast cancer. And then, because of an abundance of caution and really good doctors, my radiation oncologist was like, dude, we're just going to get you a PET scan and make sure there's nothing else there. And it turned out I had a very, very small tumor in my kidney. That was a very rare cancer that they ended up resecting as well, which I'm very thankful for. I mean, I don't recommend that surgery at all. It's not fun. But the thing with kidney cancers is you don't know you have them until they present. And if they present, it's usually too late. Like, it's usually they spread. So basically, thyroid cut out, totally fine, done. Kidney cut out, totally fine. Breast, I have a kind of breast cancer that a lot of women have, which is hormone positive. Get this, not ironic, but just cruel. It is fed by estrogen. The thing that biologically supposedly makes me a woman feeds my cancer. It's trying to kill me. So I have a lot of things to say about gender. God, no, but so so basically you get put on hormones, like reverse hormones that suppress your estrogen. And so basically you just do that kind of for the rest of your life. I found I had a small recurrence in my hip in June, right after we wrapped Star Trek. The day after, interestingly enough, the day after so I went on a new medication for that. And the day after the premiere, I have a picture at some point I'll put up on Twitter just because I think it's funny. But I didn't want to like do it in the midst of it because we're excited about stuff. I literally was, again, there's literally, I went and sat in the command chair. And the next day I had the same pose in a PET scan chair because I had already scheduled a PET scan the next morning. And you don't like, they're not as hard to get as they are in Canada or whatever, but once it's set, you need to do it. Okay. So I went from premiere to PET scan. And here's the good news. The new meds have cleared me up. So basically I'm what they call, I can't claim that I'm in remission. I'm stable. I'm NED, no evidence of disease. I have much like a diabetic or much like a diabetic, like I'm on meds probably for the rest of my life, unless we find like a Star Trek cure that takes it out, or I'm on these meds enough that my body's like, fine, I give up. So, so it's an ongoing journey because the other thing is, the meds, they fuck with you. The nice thing about it is, whereas these ones, I'm a fitness instructor, so these ones like to raise my heart rate up, sometimes scarily. It's been a giant lesson over and over again, because a lot of times we just want to think, and a lot of people think that people who go through cancer, you go through it, you're in remission and it's over. And it's just not. It's I think the best comparison I can make is it's like losing someone you love. It's never over. You never don't grieve them. It's just how foremost in your mind it is. And so cancer is kind of the same in that sense of it's very much part of your life and you're dealing and then it goes away and it's kind of on the back burner and it's around, or dealing with it, or you're taking your pills, and then you'll have a PET scan and then you freak out. Maybe something will happen that'll be like, oh shit. And I tend to look at it as, at least for me, that we are all given limited time on this planet. And when I breathe into it and when I'm really being present in it, it's just, for me, I've just taken it as this weird companion I have as a reminder that you do only get a limited amount of time, that the time that is spent should be quality, should hopefully make the world a slightly better place. And so, which, I mean, I don't do all the time, but because, we get stuck in our own shit, but the overall experience of it, the experience of both my parents are dead too. My father had died like a year before this all happened. So it kind of set the stage of me being like, what the fuck? And also made it, in certain respects, easier to deal with COVID, because I had come out of a place where I was like, oh, fuck yeah. You have no control over anything. You only have control over how you react and how you interact with people. And the one thing I've come away with is consistently, specifically coming back from COVID and being in a gym, is what you put out in the world expands, your energy expands. And we're so polarized right now about so many things because of such fear, that the more fucking love we can put out in the world, the better off we are. So in certain respects, I'm just like, great, how do I do that? And if I can do it through this, or if I can do it through being on Twitter, which I never wanted to be on except for Star Trek has drawn me in, that I'm just going to keep trying to do that. And also trying to remember to do it to the people around me,
We only have one life to live. There are things that happen that can put that in question. Not that we only have the one, but as in, right, is this it? Do I suddenly only have far less time than I thought. It can be crippling, it can be debilitating, it can be energizing, and it can be all of those things.
Yeah.
And
well, I was going to say, and I didn't mean to interrupt at all. Like, I feel like we all get experiences throughout our life that remind us what's really important. People die, kids are born. You know, we go, and so often we're rushing in life and we forget to experience the things that really matter, which is the people around us, or, you know, even events where, you know, fans come together. Like, I live next to a church, and I think of the idea of what church is for people. And church is just community. And you can find that in a lot of places. And that's the thing that makes it the most special, I think. And, you know, I think about going to the premiere and just being around people who love track, and about being on set with people who love what they do. And I feel like anything that reminds us, whether it's, you know, getting sick or something, you know, having a close call or having a child born, anything that reminds us what a miracle this is a good thing to try to like mine more of, I guess.
What is it? The chances of us existing are so infinitesimal.
I know.
It beggars belief. And you know, I've been very guilty of being very like, you know, well, I'm here. Yeah, I don't care about the chances of me existing. I exist, you know. And then there are days when, you know, I'll speak to people like yourself. Like, I hopefully have made no secret of the fact that I find you incredibly inspiring. And I don't simply mean because you're a cancer survivor and you have great stories and you have great outlook on life. Yes, that is part of it, but because you practice what you preach, you put that out there. You know, you put love out and you put energy out, and it's positive. And, you know, being on the receiving end of that, be it over a Zoom call, or we joked before about at the premiere, it was, I can't honestly say it was like ships in the night. It was, but I was just so intimidated. It was just like, I want to say hi, but I think you know, it's just too much. Yeah, but even that was just like, you're just smiling at everyone, you know. And but it's honestly, it's very frustrating. And then, as you mentioned, Twitter as well. Seeing, you know, Twitter. Oh, Twitter can be such a thing, but it can also be a place to share love and share energy, and that's what I'm seeing you
Yeah.
putting
Well,
out
I
there.
think that it's been so used. I think social media in general has been so used. And I've partaken and not, but I think it's so often been taken over by people who get a joy out of being mean to people. And here's the thing. The human experience is like, there is like when you're mad at something, getting that out on something, to there isn't something to that. There is something to that in the sense that you do feel like, fuck yeah, but it doesn't make you feel good. It
Hmm.
doesn't make you, it's like eating a Krispy Kreme donut. It's like you eat one and then you just have to eat more because it never fulfills you. It
Hmm.
never, whereas I think doing the opposite, I think being a force of good, or like there is there was a reverberation in that a just we're again like this is a place that, you know, if you can't say nice, don't say anything at all. Like, say stuff constructive if you can, but also Twitter is not a place for nuance. It's not necessarily a place for, you know, conversations specifically about things that can be true, which is two things can be true at the same time. You can't, it is a place where kind of black and white exists mostly. And
Hmm.
so if that's the case, then let's just keep lighting up the world a little bit, because there are so many people on the side of it just dragging it the fuck down. And I mean, here's the thing, it gets views. People love that kind of drama, but it does not, I don't think it fuels in real life a humanity that is actually working toward an ideal of coming together. Gene Roddenberry, like circling it all back. You know what I mean? But truthfully, you know.
Well, one thing that sometimes I have this conversation with, you know, people in the real world, you know.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm joking the way I say it, but also like that, you know, when I'm going to the shop, I know that the people I'm interacting with, I don't give a piss that, you know, somebody is in a Twitter beef with somebody else over the use of a particular, you know me, I love uniforms. A piece of a uniform in this, like, you know, that shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is that that person needs a hand carrying that, or that person was actually an asshole to that person over there. You know, it's like, what are you doing? Don't do that. You know, you know. And yeah, I exist on Twitter probably as much as I do when I'm not on Twitter. It's actually, I mean, like I have a serious problem. We'll deal with that later. But
yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, it's hard sometimes. That first couple of weeks, like and I remember texting Terry and being like, "Get off Twitter. Just you need a break. Get off," because you get so consumed. And at the same time, I mean, it was raining here, so it was easy to be fully in it. But you also have to go outside and like look at the sunlight or look at the rain. Like you have to exist in the 3D world.
Yeah, like, and that I think is the thing. One thing and again, personally for myself, as opposed to personally for 70 other people, that one of the fun things about the premiere, and I guess this is a lot true of, you know, people who are ever at conventions, and the same thing where, you know, it's like, oh, speaking of 3D, it's like, oh, there's Stephanie, yeah, actually a 3D person. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's like not just a 2-dimensional. Well, now, how many dimensions does a cloud of vapor have?
I don't know. I think multiple. I'm
gonna go with that.
Can that Katra stick to those things and then move out? I mean, just like
absolutely. And she's like, when does death ever really mean anything in Star Trek? Like, if we're honest,
I know, really. I know. I think the big thing about that is oh God, I had something that reminded me of that in another thing that we're talking about. Oh, yeah, I got it now. Now I remember. I'm like, is Taveen's death. When we're talking about life, we're talking about people. We're talking about people being so cruel to people on Twitter because it's easy because you're far away. I think the other nice thing about, I mean, I don't relish it, but the good choice in choosing to assassinate, or I say assassinate like it was planned, execute Taveen, is because it matters. It hits you in the gut, but also if you kill someone else who we haven't seen, who we don't care about, we are adding to that idea that life only matters if you know someone. And so, or death only matters. Only matters. I mean, now I just contradicted myself a little bit, but I feel as if somehow sometimes we see, you know, people just dying for no reason. And to a degree, we as consumers become desensitized to it a little bit. So I think it's a smart choice because you want death to matter. That was my point.
For example, I am a huge horror movie fan, have been for years.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many parodies, how many are of the fact of, like, some horror movies, they'll start and you can nearly get a pen and paper and go, I can tell you not only who's going to die, but in what order.
Yeah.
And
I think the nice thing is they set up that tone to be like, this is make-believe, but it's not. I mean, my favorite horror movies are stuff that's like, like The Omen, that's all like you can be possessed, like, that shit's also Catholic. Raised Catholic.
Also, I love The Omen. Like, I mean, I'm gonna come across like a gushing fan here. Will you like abuse animals or something? Because you're coming across as a bit perfect at this point. So I'm gonna need you to do something. Yeah. Because I love The Omen, and I have loved The Omen for years. Not only for the fact, I mean, like, hello, Irish, raised Catholic as well, but also for a very specific other reason. The Omen marries both Star Trek and Doctor Who.
See, here's where I fail. I am way, way lacking in my Doctor Who knowledge. Like my Star Trek is slowly getting up there, but like my Doctor Who, although now it's on HBO Max, so I can watch all of it. And I am due for that is oh God, that is the thing. When I binge hard. Like I'm in, and it's if it's books, they could suck, but I gotta read all of them. It doesn't matter. I have that thing which is weird because certain things like I'll start projects like I have screenplays or what scripts I've started to write, and then I'm like that have been just sitting there forever. Like it's so weird. But that's my fault. Yeah.
That's okay. Also, okay, right. I'm going to say, right, the dint in the perfection is the lack of Doctor Who knowledge, which means I don't know why I went to animal abuse as the first thing there. But anyway, the animals are fine. They're now fine in this one. So yeah, so it's the date. Okay, so that's fine. Yes. So yes, of course, because at the element we have the grandfather of Spock. We have Chancellor Gorkin. And then we also have the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, is the priest.
Oh. All right.
God, I love that film so much.
God, it's so scary.
It's so good.
It's so good, and like that's the other thing is like for me at least, like I don't like the blood and gore, but the suspense, that's the stuff that like yeah,
It just well no.
And the Carmen Burana, like the
oh my God. Actually, do you know what?
It's Carmina Burana, right?
Carmina Burana, yeah. And also, I forgot the biggest Star Trek connection to them all, Jerry Goldsmith.
Okay.
Oh, all right. I'll hand in my Trekkie card. I failed everyone.
Oh.
Okay, right. So, Stephanie, you're taking over as host on this podcast. So,
no, God, no. I'd have to so many notes all the time. It'd have to be like, what am I saying again? Like off the cuff. I gotta say, of like total nerd cred in his nerd dungeon. I was at an event last night with Bonnie Gordon, who is the voice of the computer on Prodigy. It was lovely and is at all the a lot of Trek conventions and sings and it does a parody of Trek stuff. And she just played D&D at Captain Shaw's private nerd lair because Todd Stashwick legit. No, I don't remember. Legit is kind of king of nerddom in my estimation because he just knows all of it and loves all of it and is also one of those people who can like recall everything. And I'm like, God damn you!
I've seen a couple of pictures of his like. Quickly, someone superimpose the Statue of Liberty behind us.
Right.
That is a girl.
Hey!
Stephanie, I could talk to you all evening and perhaps still will, but I'm very, very grateful for your time. You've been so generous and particularly generous in re-recording. Thank you so, so much.
I hope our conversation was as good. I mean, it's definitely clearer. I hope it was as good as the first time. What? I'll call you back.
It's like both times have been eye-opening, elucidating. That is a word. Anyway, it's fine. And wonderful. But also, like, the first time was just dreadful. You were just talking shite the whole time. So this time was wonderful. No, not at all.
Riley pulled herself together. My God.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fact that I had to fake bad signal and everything. Not at all. You're a hero, and I'm going to ask you, well, because we've done this before, you know what my last question is going to be.
But I don't remember it. That's what's terrible.
Well, before we get to that then, you mentioned Twitter, of course. So where can everyone find you? And also, do you know yet what is the next thing? What can we see? Well, what can Taveen be reatomized into?
Yeah. So you can reach me. I think best place to find me is on Instagram, actually. It's at skisays, SKISAYS. I'm also on Twitter. Instagram seems to be, like both those places, Instagram seems to kind of be the better place overall, I think. I am on TikTok, but not nearly as much, but it's all kind of the same thing. You can next see me in the second half of the final season of Doom Patrol, which is on HBO Max. And apparently we're working on, I might be in a new project. They're working on it. I've been invited and we're trying to work out the terms, I guess, of a project called Princess Lucinda, which I'm pretty excited about. But that's kind of early days, and I'm like, they actually posted it on Instagram. By the end of the week, it may be a done deal, but they posted it yesterday. I was like, I remember having conversations, but definitely the second half of Doom Patrol, which I think is dropping in May. I'm not sure. We haven't gotten a date yet, so.
That is great. So what you're saying is that I have time to catch up, and this is good.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently, I'm gonna. Oh, and apparently, I'm gonna start the con. Apparently, I'm starting the cons soon.
Ah, yes.
I'm going to somewhere. I'm sorry, where is it? Let me find it. I'm writing them down on my other. Now I have another calendar on my computer, which will be amazing. Apparently, I'm going to Contropolis in Secaucus, New Jersey. So
that is a lot of syllables in
I know, and it's Secaucus and it's New Jersey. So anyway, right now I've been very focused also on trying to see how I get to come see everybody. Excellent. Apparently, the best way is if you want me anywhere, send an email to the whoever's running the convention to be like, we want this person. Because apparently if it comes from you, it's more important than if it comes from me.
All right, fans, come on. We were talking about this earlier on. We get stuff done when we come together. So fans, everyone, email every convention and be like, kind of
so sounds like I feel like when I say that, I'm just like, if you want me to come, the best thing to do is this. It just feels somewhat self-serving, but I appreciate it because my interaction with fans thus far has been amazing. And because now we're at that place where Taveen has died, and I went to an event last night, and it was so heartwarming because I had people who just stopped and went, oh, and I wanted to give them a hug to make them feel better about it.
It's okay. I'm here in real life. I'm here. I'm okay.
I want to open up a Taveen. It might if I have a booth, I wanted Taveen like a Lucy 5 cent advice. 5 cent advice.
I love it. Feel less emotions. You will have a better life.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for all of that. Thank you for your time. You're amazing. Stephanie, what does Star Trek mean to you?
I think I might have had a better answer the first time right now. But it's community, man. It's community. It's seeing the good in one another. It's accepting and working through differences for the overall betterment of everyone we encounter. But especially on a day like today. Today, the biggest word is community because we find it in so many places. And there's no right or wrong place to find it. And I kind of wish that we as humans would get a little bit better at seeing that we have a lot more in common than we have that is different.
Yep. I love it. Perfect. Stephanie, you are awesome. You are wonderful. Thank you so much. Everyone, I'm still getting used to saying this. So everyone, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Yeah, it's a bit like, okay, that's great. And perhaps next time I'll get earbuds instead of having the big DJ headphones.
No, everybody has those. It's totally fine.
It's fine. The editor is currently going, Seán, just give the sign off, for God's sake. Love you, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and listening along. We will, of course, be back next week with another episode of The War Room. In the meantime, look after yourselves. Make sure you live long and prosper, and we will see you soon. Bye.